You're listening to the Round the Blind podcast with Ben and Levi. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit subscribe for more content. Now let's get started.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Round the Blind podcast. This is Ben Goodman and your co-host Levi Collins. We're coming at you this week with the Townsend brothers. So we got some big stuff on this week. We're gonna be going over a bunch of East Coast, South Carolina, along with some DIY hunts, going over the what we got in taking trips and how to do it yourself without having to go through a guide service, something like that. So what's going on, Levi? What's going on, Josh? What's going on, Matt?
What's going on, brother? Living the dream.
So,
you good, Josh?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, you broke up there for a minute, but
My phone fell.
So we had 5 listeners last week, so we might have like 15, 20 this week. So I'm just giving you all y'all. I'm giving y'all a heads up. These boys like to talk. We like to talk, so it might go on a little bit longer than an hour. What me and Ben were just talking. So if we won't get offended if when you're driving to work, you're not done with the podcast yet, to pause it and come back later. So. But this, like Ben said, we got a lot of information, a lot of good information, because these boys have gone all over East Coast, Midwest, and they've done a lot. They got a lot of knowledge. So I'm really looking forward to picking their brain, especially on DIY and just the East Coast in general. Because like what me and Ben said last week, we've been hunting the East Coast since 2018, 2 years. So these boys have been hunting since they were in diapers. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they had to hear and seeing the good changes and the not so good changes over the years. So if y'all want to go ahead and start with your introductions, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Josh, you can go ahead first.
My name's Josh Townsend. We live in Atlanta, South Carolina, little community known as the Free States. And we grew up mainly on
And we're out again.
Yeah.
What he's trying to say is down in the Free States we have no cell phone service.
live boxes and the other things and stuff. But it's also mostly what we've been doing since we were.
Hey, JT, they missed all of that.
You went Transformers again.
Hey, you may have to go out from under that tin roof.
Go ahead and talk.
Well, I'm Josh's older brother, and we both still live on the same piece of property. We were born on different houses, but we still live on that same piece of property. Like Levi said, according to my mom and dad, I have been duck hunting since I was in diapers. My mom always told the story my birthday's in January. So before I was a year old, my mom and dad always were outside and done everything together, including duck hunting. So my mom always says before I was a year old, she was carrying me through the swamp on her hip and sitting me on stumps while my dad shot wood ducks. And man, I tell you, we were really blessed growing up, me and Josh both. Our dad, if he wasn't working, we were normally we were either working with him, and if we weren't working, he had us outside hunting and fishing. We didn't grow up with any video games or anything like that. We were outside, and bird hunting just seemed to be it was a big deal. And even when we were little, when we weren't actually hunting, we were pretending like we were duck hunting. And we were small. I just bird hunted, BB guns, and just go out in the woods. My mom, I don't remember this, but my mom says they put a latch at the top of the door when I was about 5. 'Cause I've always awakened pretty early. And she said when I was probably 5 years old, I had just one of those little Red Ryder type BB guns.
Yeah.
And they couldn't keep me in the house on the weekends. I would wake up and unlock the door and go outside and wander in the woods. So they put a latch up at the top of the door, and it's still there in my mom's house.
Really?
She said I would take the broomstick and unlatch the door so we could get outside to go bird hunting. I don't remember it, but that's what she says, and the latch is there.
So
can y'all guys
sorry,
hear me now?
Yeah, you sound good now. Go ahead, Josh.
Okay. But no, then by the time I come along, he was old enough. I can't think of a time in our childhood me and him ever sat down and watched the TV together. Only time we watched the TV or TV turned on, was at nighttime when we were going to sleep. All we did, we were either hunting or fishing by ourselves, or we were pretending like we were duck hunting. That's all we did our entire lives. And
we were blessed. We had a small piece of property at the house there, but when I was, not so much when Josh was getting older, but when I was pretty young, you could walk out my door and I could walk any direction I wanted to, and if I wanted to deer hunt, I could deer hunt or squirrel hunt or deer, anything really. And nobody really said anything about it, but it's totally changed now. It's not that way.
Right. When we were kids, it's totally different now. Deer hunting exploded around 2000 around here. Some pretty good deer started getting killed in our area, and it boomed, and for no reason really. It's really nothing special about it. But when we were children growing up, I'm telling you, we were never inside. And I think about how far me and him used to go on foot. Now, at the age that we did and the things that we did, no one kept tabs on us. We were just running, and
right.
I couldn't think of children doing that these days.
I can't think of my kid doing that now.
No, at the age of some of the stuff we were doing, and at that, it all turned. I got my first shotgun when I was in 4-year-old kindergarten. My dad sawed the stock off of a 410 for me. I remember going to school in 4-year-old kindergarten. They were asking me what I got for Christmas, and I told them a shotgun. They said a toy gun. I said no, I got my first shotgun. They said, oh, a BB gun. I said no, it's a shotgun. It's a 410. My dad sawed the stock. I remember having that conversation. I talked to that kindergarten teacher this afternoon, matter of fact. But
really?
Oh yeah, no doubt. And I said something to her about that actually, and
like I said, we were blessed. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but just a quick question. So, how big was the plot y'all grew up on? I know you said it wasn't much, but how many? I guess how it was the acreage.
Probably 15 or so acres where our house is.
Yeah.
Our family had a farm about a mile down the road that I think they still. Josh, how much is there? 70 or 90 acres are there?
It's 79 or 89. It's somewhere. Yeah. It's around 90. But we roamed.
That's a lot for kids.
There was no. We roamed more than that. We roamed everything.
Yeah,
the whole community, though. I mean, we had a country store. My granddad, there's still a log cabin store sitting beside my mom's house now. And for about 25 years, when tobacco was big and things like that, they ran my granddad had retired from SCDOT and had opened up my dad had actually built it as a clubhouse when he was 18, but it was about a 25 by 25 log cabin store or log cabin building. And my granddad ended up turning into a business and ran it for about 25 years. And it's just a really tight-knit community where we grew. I mean, I could walk a mile and I knew everybody around, and everybody,
right.
I guess they probably watched out for us a lot more than we realized at the time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It was, it hadn't been that long ago, but times have changed so much that, your people are just different these days, and letting kids roam around it, and it's not the same as it used to be. It's not as safe as it used to be. But anyway, go ahead, Levi.
So, is it no place like home, or what's your favorite state to go kill birds at?
Man, listen, I got a really good friend that I think the world of. His name's Emery, and Emery's a homebody. He loves Latta, and I just told him the other day, I said, man, I can be at home anywhere. I can pull up to anywhere and, get a chair and sit down and feel like I'm home. I'm just kind of a rambler as long as I got my family there. Josh and my mom and a sister and her kids are about our only family left. So it's a small little family anyway, but I can go anywhere, man. I think I got the traveling bug from my granddad. He used to take us fishing all the time. And we would just, go up it's probably about a 4-hour drive up to where our great uncle lived. But as a little boy, it felt like it took all day to drive up there. And
I just realized, I just thought about that. It really wasn't that long, but it did seem like forever back then.
But he would
thought about that.
Get us out of school and just head up to North Carolina where his brother lived and take us fishing. That's where my love for traveling come from.
Right.
I just like to go see different stuff. It was always exciting. And then my dad had a passion for duck hunting. He was by far, I wouldn't say the greatest duck hunter ever, because he was a first generation duck hunter. My whole family are huge coon hunters.
Right.
And he just wasn't cut from that cloth. And he was so excited. I can even remember now, our dad, he passed in 2010, kind of unexpectedly. And just the excitement that he had, and it was so, as a little boy, Levi, you were talking about this the other day about your dad. I think you were talking about killing your first deer, the excitement that you saw in him.
Right.
That excitement, my dad, especially killing mallard ducks, man, like it was a huge ordeal. And I remember even Saturday, we never hunted on Sunday. My dad was a straight up Baptist man, and he worked 5 days a week. Saturday we hunted. And sometimes in the afternoon, if he got off early enough, he would come home and he would rush me, get us dressed, and we would head off to some property we had. And he would always talk about, big ducks flying early. We got to get there. We got to get there. We got to get there. We'll be in such a rush. And it was, as a little boy, it was so like, it was an adrenaline rush, because I was always excited.
A very mild-mannered guy. He didn't speak a whole lot, didn't show a whole lot of emotion or excitement, really. Not to say, no, he was a very loving father, great father, but he just not a whole lot excited him. He didn't get in a big, he didn't get in a hurry or nothing.
Yeah.
And, everything was on his time. If you weren't on his schedule, then you on the schedule. And he took everything pretty slow. But when it come to ducks and birds in general, hunting them, that's the time I saw that, and us playing ball. That's the only two. He told me that a long time ago. That's what he lived for. Watch us play ball and the hunt, and let us hunt. He could have done a lot more, killed a lot more ducks. And they turned down invites for a lot of people, but he was carrying 2 children wherever he went. And if we didn't go,
it's awesome.
I think I remember maybe 2 or 3 hunts when we didn't go with him, and it was just, we couldn't believe it. Like, it was.
I would have to really think about, like, sit down and think about times that my dad, I can think of, like Josh said, maybe 2 or 3, but if my dad went hunting, whether it was for deer, ducks, squirrels, whatever it was, we were going to be with him. And it just, as a kid, it was exciting. And I would have to say my duck hunting, and I'll kind of speak for both of Josh and I for this, like my actual hunting, when I started hunting, my dad's help. Looking back now, I see it. I didn't really see it then when I was younger. but he started getting where he couldn't get up as early. He couldn't move as well. He had been in a car crash when he was 16 years old. A drunk driver hit him head on a motorcycle. And he was actually by law crippled, but he would never get on disability, and he worked. And we just followed him around. And then he, like I said, he just got where he couldn't get up as early. He couldn't move as well. And I think I was about 14, and I think the first car I ever drove hunting was probably like a 88 Buick, maybe it was a Skylark or something like that.
Oh yeah, we put a hitch on that sucker and drug a boat to the river.
But I was 14, and like I was really getting into duck hunting then, because I was big enough I could wade most places and things like that. And he just gave me the keys, and like I would drive, no driver's license or anything, but we would just take off. And there was a swamp down from our house. And I still remember when I was younger, we would kind of stand on the edge of that swamp and shoot passing ducks. And I remember watching these birds. And back then, this swamp was full of birds. And those wood ducks would just come over and pile into some timber. And I was just like, man, it'd be a good idea if I tried to get where they were going. And I think that kind of sets the tone for duck hunting in general for the rest of my life, is to get where the birds are going. And I went in that hole, and I had my first encounter with actually trying to call mallard ducks myself and bring them to me in that hole. And but it was still private land. And, we didn't get into hunting public land till I was probably, I don't know, 16 or 17, somewhere in there. We had private land and clubs and things like that, leases that we hunted. And looking back now, man, I tell you, we were blessed in some of the properties that we hunted. Like, I had no idea how good they were till we started hunting public land. We had some phenomenal properties that I couldn't even afford to try to lease now. But back in the mid 90s, duck hunting around the land that we were on it wasn't a big deal.
Our dad was on this area we live in is not really big on, duck hunters aren't really big around here. It's really deer hunting, coon hunting. That's really your main things around here. But once deer season went out, Daddy had a crowd of people that wanted to
try to kill some birds.
They were right, and they were, and they did. And we had a hunting club we were part of, and Daddy paid the hunting club, and he deer hunted a few times, and he mostly took us deer hunting. I think my dad killed probably less than 10 deer. I can think of.
Yeah.
And he just didn't care for it. He took us because we wanted to go. And but he kept that hunting club around because he found a beaver pond on it. And man, that was our mom used to come out, and this was probably still 96 through 2000, I think. Matt, was it about 2000?
Probably, yeah.
And I remember from 96, and I was a young child, but I remember my mama taking us, and him and one of his good friends at the time still was, Dwayne, him going, and they both had their dogs, but the amount of birds that were in there, it's where we saw our first group of black ducks. And I'll never forget, Matt and my dad's dog were out before us, and my brother come running back and said, I just scared up a group of 15 mallard hens. He said, I ain't never seen so many mallard hens in my life. And that's the mallard hen there. Levi.
Yeah.
We didn't know. We were young, and we thought it was a flock of mallard hens sitting on the water, and they all got up quacking. And that's my first experience ever seeing black ducks, and that area still to this day holds them. And holds them a good bit. And it was just absolutely just.
I think
where's the video down there for
JT? We're losing you again.
All right. Well, if I fall out,
going back to the public hunting. Like I said, we got into public hunt when I was probably 17 or 18. There's a friend of mine that I played ball with in school named John Dove, and he had a buddy named Richard Lee that I had never met.
Man, I apologize for that. You got cut off there. You can go ahead and pick up where you left off talking about with your favorite state to duck hunt.
So, well, we were talking about hunting public land, and when I actually first started hunting public land in South Carolina, it was about the same time that I decided, and like I said, as kids, you see all these things. There wasn't really a lot of hunt movies out. Like I remember we had, Josh, was it Duck Commander 2 or something like that?
We had Duck Commander 2, Whistling Wings 1, and Whistling Wings 2.
So, like, those movies got played out at our house. But I remember as a kid, like, especially with the first Whistling Wings video, they would scroll across the bottom of the screen what state they were hunting in. And have you guys ever seen either of those?
Yeah.
Levi, how old are you, Levi?
25. I turned 25 this month.
Ben, how old are you?
I'm 26.
Okay, oh God, I'm the old man in the group. Okay.
I think Whistling Wings 1 had one of the best hunt movies, really. Definitely at the time in the country. I believe Fred Zink was on 1 and 2. Johnny Boomafoos, who were hunting Biometa green timber, and he's a world champion caller. You also had Roy Rhodes. There was Eli Haydale, Mike McLemore. McLemore, I think he was.
I'm a lot older than Josh, so I don't remember any of those names. Like, there's a couple I recognize, but for the most part, what stuck with me was the states they were in. And
right,
you know, I had never, the internet obviously wasn't a thing, so information didn't travel as fast as it does now. And those videos were really all we had. And I just remember seeing those states, and as I don't even know how old I was. I couldn't tell you, but Arkansas and flooded green timber and those guys calling those birds through the trees. And I was just like, I'm going there and I want to do that.
Yeah. Right.
And, you know, again along the way, you see as information starts to pick up and you're exposed to more stuff, you see so many different areas that, like, when I was a kid, I probably didn't even know that North Dakota had a duck in it. You know, I knew it was cold. But I think that video probably started the drive to say, hey, I want to go to these different places and see different things. And Arkansas, man, I mean, South Carolina has a rich history in waterfowling. I mean, especially along the coast with the old rice fields and places like that. But, you know, duck hunting will always be duck hunting to me in flooded green timber in Arkansas. It's like the World Series. It's Major League. And I love going out there because those guys can kill ducks. And there's competition. You know, you can still go around and find some places where 4 a.m. comes, you better have your boat going because these guys will run over you. And getting out there, running boats, you know, everything about that it's just what I think duck hunting is supposed to be. And working those birds, seeing those birds' reaction all the way to the water that's everything to me, man. I love hunting. There's a lot of places that I love to hunt, but I'm going to, you know, Arkansas, you guys keep up with the rules, and it seems like they're doing more and more every year to try to keep out-of-staters out. But until they say, hey, you can't come anymore, I'm going to keep going, man. You know, and the thing about it is, man, you can go and, I mean, a couple of years ago, what was it, Josh, 16 or 17? I mean, we got our tail kicked, man. We were there for 6-7 days and just could not get on birds. And there were local guys there at the ramp every morning when we got out, and and they were hammering birds. And that's what I like about it is those are some of the best duck killers in the world. Like you got some of the best duck callers, you got some of the best duck hunters in the world in that
Right.
flooded green timber, and you could be 150, 300 yards away from a world champion duck caller, world champion duck killer, man.
Yeah.
And you know, you're gonna get some birds sometimes, and I love it. The people aren't always. Me and Levi were talking about last night. Some of the people out there are not always super nice, but for the most part, I've never had a problem as far as hunting. Or you hear so many horror stories about people getting their tires cut and things like that. We joke about it all the time, but I've never had a problem. I've had some less than pleasant behavior out of people when they found out I was from South Carolina, but you know,
just out of state period, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that thing now where it's cool. If you get on these pages, it's cool to hate out-of-staters.
Yeah.
Like Levi and I were talking last night, Ben. I sat and talked to a guy for an hour on a dike, and I mean, we were talking just like you and I are talking now. And finally, he thought I was from around there. He's like, you know, where you live? And I was like, oh boy, you know, South Carolina. And the dude, we were talking for over an hour, watching birds, and he legit turned around and walked away, like didn't say anything else. I was like, okay. And you know, my parents raised me to be cordial to people, polite. So even, you know, you're going to pass hunters in the gas stations, and man, if they see that boat pull up with South Carolina tags on, I'm going to speak to everybody. And you say, hey, you know, good morning. And they just kind of look at you like, but you know, I'll get into this. Some of that's our fault. They're not particularly our fault, but
out-of-staters
in general. Yeah. But and I'm probably speaking for Josh too when I say, you know, duck hunting, the hunting isn't always the best, but it's my favorite place to be. Like I'm going to keep going. Like I love it.
So I understand that sentiment a little bit about out-of-staters. I mean, I've never had an experience where, you know, I just don't want out-of-staters around. But we used to have a deer property back when I was a kid, and you know, the property next door, they would, you know, people would pay to come hunt, and you know, and we could never get, you know, big bucks managed on our property because, you know, guys from New York would come down, and, you know, they'd just go and they'd shoot any buck they saw. So I understand when you say, you know, it's a little bit of, it's not necessarily your fault, but a little bit of you know, out-of-staters in general can create a kind of a sentiment that drives that a little bit. But it's still not. I mean, waterfowling it's an experience, and I think you share with the people that you meet, and you share with the people that are there. So I mean, I also don't understand the sentiment of if somebody's respectful and doing the right things, you know, just because they're out of state. I mean, I don't understand that either.
Well, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about last week, and then me and Matt were talking about last night. It's just people are going to be assholes. So that, I mean, some people just don't know, and then some people are just selfish, and they don't care that you own, you know, that you had the property next door, and you've been having a picture of this buck for 3 years now. They just care. It's like, oh, it's a nice deer, I'm going to shoot it. You know what I mean? People are selfish. It's either between they're ignorant and they're selfish. And there's a fine line between that. So again, people are going to do what they're going to do at the end of every day, and I'm sure. Go ahead.
In my opinion, I've hunted, I don't know how many states I've hunted. It's not that many. I think it's 10 or 12 or so, somewhere in that area, I'm guessing. Per capita, South Carolina got the most assholes I've ever run across. And that is hands down, 100%. South Carolina's got the most assholes I've ever run across on public water. And those same guys that are assholes on public water, they're no better out of state on public water.
That's right. All right.
So
when
Josh,
when they get out there,
you can finish what you're saying, man. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
So do you think it's because Because I know
Go ahead.
me and you were talking about it, and then me and Matt were talking about it. He said the same thing. Y'all are in North Dakota. Y'all beat someone to the hole. You see, you saw the guy pull up, and then he left again. Do you think it's because somewhere like North Dakota, there's more opportunities for public land to kill birds, vice South Carolina, and when someone finds like a little, not want to say like a honey hole, but a spot where they have a chance to getting some good birds, do you think that's why it makes people so hostile, and it kind of draw that line there?
No doubt. I think another thing is the waterfowl explosion that has happened. I think you had a waterfowl explosion really before Duck Dynasty, even a couple years before that. Benelli Presents Duck Commander. That created explosion, and you've got a new generation of waterfowlers who have never quit hunting in the 70s and 80s. I'll talk to older guys all the time. Yeah, we used to slaughter ducks in Sparkleberry. It's not the same anymore. We quit. Well, now their kids and grandkids want to hunt. They've had nobody to take them. They go out and buy a kid an $18,000 John boat,
Right.
and he has no clue what he's doing. He's got $2,000 shotgun with an $18,000 boat and $1,000 worth of decoys, and he has no guidance of what he was supposed to be doing.
Let me cut you off right there, Josh, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I'll go way further than that. It's not just those kids that don't know. There's a older crowd that doesn't know just as much, and it all comes down to one thing, and it'll sum up this conversation, and it'll kind of lead into what we're trying to get off the ground is respect.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I agree.
Respecting each other. I've never in my life walked into a hole on top of somebody. I've never pulled my boat into a hole on top of somebody. If you get there first, if you get up before I do and you beat me to the hole, then you beat me to the hole. That's where it's your responsibility. If you're hunting public water, you don't just need an A, you need an A, B, and C.
Right.
Because by the time you've gone to A and it's locked down, you go to B, well, somebody else is already there. So it just comes down to greed. People are greedy, and people are rude, and there's no respect. And I told Levi, I was talking to him last night, I've never been to the level of I'm going to fight you over a duck hole. If you get there first, I'm not pulling in on top of you. I'm going somewhere else.
Got close.
I'm not gonna sit 200 yards from you. I'm not gonna set up 200 yards from you. I'm not gonna set up 300 yards from you. I'm going somewhere else to hunt, even if I don't kill a bird. It's my fault. Whatever happened that day, we try to leave the house. Even if I'm hunting around the house, I may be 15 minutes from a spot, but I'll leave my house at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, why? Well, I might have engine trouble with my boat. I might have a tire blowout. All these different things. And there's just a respect that's not there anymore. Like I said, growing up, we didn't deal with it because we were hunting private land. But as soon as I started, like I said, and when I was probably 17, 18 years old, two boys named John Dove and Richard Lee, they were like, man, let's go hunt the river. And we live between two rivers, and my dad never carried us because he was, by himself, and having two boys in the boat, I guess he didn't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But I remember getting out there, and I was like, there were mallard ducks, all in the trees. And I was like, man, I gotta figure out something on this deal. And that's kind of how we started. I went home. I'm telling my brother, like, bro, there's mallard ducks out in those trees, and we need to kill them. But we just never.
The putting back what Matt was saying on your plan B and C, you have to have it, because if A is that good, someone else has found it. You're not the only person that knows about it. No matter how far you went.
There's no secrets on public water. I don't care. It may look like no one's touched that hole in 100 years, or you're the first person to set eyes on it in 20 years. Somebody's been there. there's no secret holes on public water for sure.
Yeah, once you go in there shooting, it's not secret anymore anyways.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Well, and you have that. So if you don't have that B and C planned out, you're not doing anything. That's especially out of state. If we're hunting out of state, if A's not there, we are going to be there in enough time to where we can get to B. We're going to make sure if B's not there, we're going to have enough time to get to C.
All right. Yeah.
And because you've driven, in some cases, 1,900 miles to get to a place, and you can't let someone else determine your success at all.
Yeah.
And once you don't plan for it, and that's the thing about out of state hunting and hunting public water. If we just had a great duck hunt, we might have just killed a 3-man limit here in South Carolina on public, or a 5-man limit somewhere out west, and everybody wants to go home and celebrate the hunt, drink beer, talk, make a fire, chill out, but you can't. When we leave our house, when we leave in the morning, whether it's 1 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, we're not coming back till it's dark and we can't see birds anymore.
Let me ask you this, guys. What leading up to you've said that you guys get up early enough to where you're not missing that spot. So that leads me into what's your most memorable out of state or DIY hunt?
Oh man,
There's
go
a
ahead,
couple.
Josh.
I'm not going to name drop this place or even the state. Or,
No, it's all good. You don't got. You can give as little information as you want.
Well, we were duck hunting in Africa, and somewhere in Africa, and I'll just never forget we'll talk about North Dakota. I'll name drop that place. I ain't even gonna speak on that hunt, but we found a flooded cow and horse pasture, and last year Levi was out there. He saw the snowfall in October, but it also had the most rain in October, and they had the biggest snowfall in October they'd ever recorded. And then it warmed up, and the snow melted, so there's just snow runoff everywhere, and it's flooding things that never get flooded, like sunflower fields and beside pastures that have a creek running through it. And I remember us going there. We'd already hunted that morning. Matter of fact, we were still hunting, and this is what we do. If we've already got a couple of limits, somebody will leave, and 2 people will leave, and they'll go off scouting. And the guys that don't have their limits will hunt, and those guys will go off and keep scouting. And I remember my brother coming back and was like, "All right, pick up, let's go." I was like, "Y'all found them?" He's like, "Yeah, we found all of them." I was like, "What does that mean?" He's like, "They're all, we've got them all." I said, "Mallards?" He said, "Everything." He said, y'all guys are good." He was like, "We've got something in the morning that's going to be special." And it was flooded knee-deep sunflower. And it was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. Hunting ducks over flooded sunflowers and killing wood duck. There were a group of wood ducks come by. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to miss the opportunity to kill wood ducks and flooded sunflowers. I shot a couple of wood ducks, and they were teal, redheads, canvasbacks, blue wing teal, green wing teal, mallard after mallard. You couldn't believe. And we were working groups of, we were working just giant groups of birds. And last groups of mallards set probably a group of 250, 300 mallards. They sat down at probably 5 to 10 yards, and just seeing those ducks sit down, and I can reach out and grab them, and that many in that special location, something probably never happened again. That was a deal.
Very
that,
situational.
It's probably a one-time shot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And to have those birds like that and work all of them and have a group of guys there, like when, we did some killing that day, and it was just unbelievable to see those big groups of birds come in and land them that close. And you could pick whatever kind of bird you wanted to kill, however you wanted to fill out your limit. You could fill out your limit however way you want to do it. And That's one of my favorites.
I mean, that's part of the reason why you keep going out there too, is for hunts like that. I mean, you're not gonna get that obviously every time, but I mean, that's what keeps you going. That's why, I mean, it could be good today. Like, you just don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what you're
that-
chasing.
Yeah, exactly.
like what you just said, Levi, it's like even when I don't want to go and I don't feel like going sometimes, it's like I have to go.
Yeah, you
Like,
gotta force yourself out of bed and wake up. And
I have to go because today might be the day.
right,
And
exactly.
most of the time it's not. But
Yeah,
I'd hate to nail down. I've been blessed to have some spectacular and it's not even really so much killing limits of birds makes a hunt spectacular or memorable or even successful. There's just certain things. I think back during the freeze in 2016 here in South Carolina, my brother-in-law, we were dating sisters. Neither one of us was married at the time, but I remember when I first met him, or my wife, she's like, "Oh, my sister's boyfriend duck hunts." I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure he does." like, because everybody around the house now, they duck hunt,
yeah,
And like, I met him a couple of times and talked, and it just one of those things kind of happened somehow or another. Where I was going or who I was going with, something didn't work out, and then the same thing with him.
We found the hole the day before.
That's right.
And I had to work.
I think I texted him or he texted me one way or the other and was like, "Hey, what are you doing in the morning?" I was like, "Man, I got this place and it may be good. It may not. I don't know. You want to go?" And he's like, "Yeah." And we went, and actually another guy, going back on what we're talking about, this guy, I actually still remember his name because, he walked in on us and I introduced myself. And I was like, he said, "Yeah, I was here yesterday." I was like, "Okay." I said, "Well, so you're more than welcome to hunt with us."
yeah.
I guess now looking back, it sounded a lot more rude than I ever intended it to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I was completely invited and completely fine with him staying.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
in the moment, like I just say stuff sometimes, and later I'm like, "Damn, I really should have worded that differently."
Right.
I was like, "Hey, man, you're more than welcome to hunt with us, or you can go somewhere else." And I mean, this guy was probably in his 50s or 60s at least.
Yeah.
And he kind of kicked around there for a little while, and he was like, "All right." Well, he turned around and left, and we had 4 or 5 different boats try to come in on us, but for whatever reason, South Carolina is notorious for people just sitting up on top of you. And
Right.
I don't think anybody set up within a quarter mile of us this day. And I think we had seen a few ducks about, at 8 o'clock. And I was like, "Man, let's just give it a little while longer." About 8:30, it just turned on. I mean, it was just flocks of mallard ducks, just from 10 to 35, and just right there, just working them. And everything was kind of froze, and they were just, the wind, we had a really good wind for where we were at, and the birds just dropped in on us. And that was, Philip and I, he got to see me kind of act fool because I'm a duck hunter, man. And
Yeah.
the working a bird, and Josh would definitely back me up on this, calling a bird and getting him to the water is it's like my crack. It's a 160
Right,
inch
yeah.
deer. Yeah. To me, I still, and this is no lie, to this day, like when ducks start responding really well and they go out on a swing and they set their wings and they're coming in, like I have to talk to myself still. I'm like, "Okay, breathe, take a deep breath." Like,
Yeah.
I'm serious. Like, my hands are shaking. It does it for me, man. And Josh will tell you, we've been blessed to be on a bunch of different hunts. And, Josh will look over. I hadn't even loaded my gun. I'm just calling birds. He's like, "Bro, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Man, y'all shoot. Just shoot."
Yeah.
I enjoy that aspect of it. I kill them. I enjoy shooting them. But out of state hunts, public land hunts in South Carolina, there's just I've got so many that just like there's something about them that just sticks out. And like I said, you may not even kill limits, but
Right.
now, like Josh said, places like that sunflower field that was flooded knee deep, that's like once in a life. You don't get that often.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's absolutely, it's up there at the top. But we hunted another day and we're on the edge of I think it was a cut wheat field on a little pothole, and mallards were coming in 2 to 4 at a time. And we were just taking turns shooting mallard drakes.
Yeah.
And that's just as cool to me.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
It's hard for me to just say, man, this is the one. Like this is the hunt. And maybe I hadn't been on it yet. I don't know. But
yeah, maybe you gotta go back to Africa.
Africa's good, man. It's it's a good place, but we've had some, like Josh was saying, we've had some hunts out there that are just, it's special, Yeah. And you remember them, and I think that first hunt though with Philip, because now like me, Josh, and Philip and a couple of guys, like we're together. Like I kind of, me and Philip we filled each other out, and we're like, okay, this guy's for real. He's like, okay, this guy's for real. Like he's legit, and it just started like we started traveling together, because Philip was kind of the same way, like I was talking earlier about us. Like you see all these places when you're young, you're like, I want to go there.
Right.
And, somebody says, well, hey, let's go to Missouri. Well, okay, let's go. There's nothing stopping you.
Yeah, for sure.
All you got to do is load up and go.
And I think it's a lot easier than what people realize. And I think what deters a lot of people is that they don't think they're going to be successful in the terms of actually killing birds, or, I think everyone's always out there to chase the limit, right? I think that's the reason why this deters a lot of people. But like, I've said this to all y'all, and then y'all, it's the hardest part is actually finding the birds. And that is the absolutely hardest part. If you want to be where they want to be, you're going to have no problems killing birds, because I'm sure whether you throw out 24 decoys or 0 decoys, they're going to be there regardless, 9 times out of 10 at least.
We have a rule. Anytime we leave the house, like one of the first things we say before we pull out driveway is we're not going to kill a duck. Like,
some reverse psychology on karma.
well, I think what it is more than anything, and this is what I would say to anybody that has never done, is it just says, hey, you know what? I want to go here, and I want to hunt, and I want to do it alone. Because I met some guys about a month ago, and they were like, they heard, we had traveled somewhere and hunted. He's like, yeah, man, we heard y'all went here. And he said, you know what? I just woke up on like a Saturday or Monday morning. It's like I hitched my boat up and I went. I'm like, dude, rock on, bro. That's solid. I have all the respect in the world. He's like, I think he said they killed like 2 birds or something like that in 4 days or so. But that's the biggest, if I had to say anything to anybody about that's never been, is have real expectations.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Especially if it's your first time.
Yeah. And places like Arkansas, like if somebody says, hey, I want to go to Arkansas this year, there's tons and tons of public land, but most of it's flooded timber. And finding a duck in flooded green timber is not an easy thing to do. It's not. It's not like driving across North Dakota or Nebraska or Missouri or somewhere like that where you can sit on a hill and glass for as far as you can see and see birds. Ducks can be 500 yards in the timber, and if they're quiet, you're never going to hear them. You're never going to see them.
Hey, let me get my phone real quick. We lost Josh. I'm gonna check my phone and see what's up with him.
Yeah, man. So you mentioned Missouri a couple of times. Have you done a couple of trips out there?
I've never been out there. We've been right up to the border there in northeast Arkansas. To be really honest with you, I've never looked into any of their public hunting, or I know, like, I guess places like what I'd really like to experience is, like you and Levi were talking about, the draw hunts.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not really even, because I'm a history guy. You know, I like history. So places that have history, you know, just have significance. You know, I want to go. It's not about, oh, let's go kill a limit. Let's go hunt this place because, you know, it's a special place for waterfowl in North America.
Yep.
Let's go there and hunt.
Yeah, Grand Pass is amazing, and that's kind of I mean, Missouri has, I mean, just a ton of birds. I mean, I spent 6 years there, and there's so many birds that come through there. The problem you run into is that the best public land is controlled through those draw systems.
Right.
So there might be a day you don't even get in. There might be a day that you get the first pick, and so that's the problem you run into with Missouri. And I think from a going on a trip to go hunt there standpoint, but there's also some places, like if you can find a Corps of Engineers lake or something like that, that's generally public or something like that, that's not really listed on the Missouri Department of Conservation website, but there's some down, in Missouri, middle of Missouri. But I agree that I don't know how well a out of state trip to the middle of Missouri might turn out, especially when you could go draw in 7 days and not get in at all.
Right. Well, and I like I said, I haven't even checked into Missouri really. But people, obviously, one of the big questions anybody gets anytime is where to go.
Yep.
And I am all for. I'm not dropping anybody any opinions. I believe I was raised and I was taught to work, and I was raised that hard work does you good, and it's so much more rewarding when you do it yourself. But I'm not that guy that's going to say, hey man, go here. I will give you a ton of information to help you be successful.
Yeah.
But now it amazes me that how people will go and say, hey, where did you go in such and such state? And I'm like, bro, all I did was get on the internet and I looked up their state management areas. I looked up if there was any wildlife refuges in their state,
Right.
It's a lot more basic than people want it to be. Because I can give you a spot. I can say, hey man, go hunt here. And it may have been on fire that day, but the chances of it being on fire when you go are pretty slim.
Yeah.
Hey, hold on a second. I'll step out real quick.
So I kind of shy away from just saying, hey man, you need to go here and hunt, because even the best duck holes, me and my brother-in-law talk about this all the time, the best duck holes in the world, the best duck holes we have, there's days you're not going to see a bird. You're not going to kill a bird. I won't say see a bird, but you're not going to kill a bird.
Right, for sure. And I kind of go back to what you were saying with when you first kind of met your brother-in-law, and kind of what Ben was saying last episode, is that it's hard to find people that actually want to go and put the work in. And like I've been stationed in Virginia, now here, and I've yet to meet someone that, other than Ben, that is willing to actually put the work in and go scout, put the windshield time in, and actually find the birds. I mean, I've had countless number of people come up to me and say, hey man, can you take me hunting? And I'm like, sure, I'll take you hunting. And I said, then I'll say, I'm going scout tomorrow. Come along with me. He's like, oh, well, I can't do that. I was like, okay, that's fine. I was like, what about Saturday or Sunday? And I'm like, I'll get with my wife, and then I'll just won't hear from him again. So it's just like, and it's just hard to find people that actually want to hunt. There's a guy I work with. When he first checked into our command at the command this year, he was all gun ho about, because he's a big deer hunter. He's like, man, you deer hunt? I'm like, yeah, I've already got cameras out now, and it was in like April, May. And I was like, I'm already taking inventory what I got right now. It's like, all right, cool. And then he's like, I plan on getting a bow and a stand and all this, and now he's asking to hunt my stands. I'm like, I don't know about that one, buddy. It's like,
So did we get Josh to come back in, or is he?
so
he
I sent him a text, and it hasn't even been delivered yet.
Okay.
So his phone might have died because he had okay service to be able to at least his video was kind of blurry, but he sounded clear, so his phone might have died.
I mean, we can keep going. If he hops back in here, then he hops back in here. I mean, and then we can.
He'll be on with Toby in a couple weeks, so he'll be all right.
So I think the next one we were going to was, so what things have you learned, like tips, tricks, stuff like that with out of state DIY hunts, that kind of stuff.
A lot of what we were just talking about. Number one is have realistic expectations. If you've never been somewhere, and like I said, man, I'm all for whoever. If they say, hey, I want to go here and hunt, bro, go. The only, like I said before, the only thing stopping you is you. But have realistic expectations, just because. And I hear so many people, especially around here, they talk about Arkansas. They're like, man, I'm never going back to Arkansas. Arkansas sucks. We went there for 5 days and we didn't kill but 3 ducks. And I'm like, there's a learning curve out there. Not an, like I said before, you're duck hunting, one, against competition that those boys are out there killing ducks for 60 days. They're good at it. 2, like we said, finding birds in green timber is not always that's not an easy thing to do. And most of the public land out there, if you're going, to hunt public land, most of that land out there is flooded green timber. And you're going to be at the mercy of, if the water's up, if the water's down, where are the birds at? And
you got to think too that they've probably been shot. They've been shot at since Canada, so they've learned little things along the way.
Exactly. I don't think we've ever been out there before December. Matter of fact, I know we haven't. I think the earliest we've ever gone is December 26th, and by then, birds are still coming in. You'll get new birds, and we try to play the weather when hopefully it's going to be colder up north, but it's not always the case. But those birds are educated. They're smart.
Yeah, right.
And you put that on top of they've been hunted by the best duck hunters in America for the last 60 days. It's something special. And if you it's the kind of thing, I think, where either you're going to go regardless, or you're going to go out there because you just want to kill, and you're going to get discouraged and you're not going to want to go back.
Right.
If you're not okay with getting your teeth kicked in every now and then and saying, man, we lost that one, you're not going to like hunting public water in Arkansas.
Yeah, well, you got to learn. You got to learn down there too, because I mean, not to say it doesn't get cold in Arkansas, but it doesn't get as cold as it does Missouri,
north of
Iowa,
there, right?
Yeah, right. Nebraska, Kansas, and so you're hunting stale birds. You're hunting birds that are not necessarily migrating so much anymore. They're settling. They've done migrated. So I mean, they're going to hang out there until it starts to warm back up. So. I think that's a lot of things that people run into is they don't know how to hunt stale birds.
Last year, the second to last day we were there, about 12 o'clock, we were scouting and just looked up, and I think there were birds in the air until after, there were literally just droves and droves and droves of birds that just coming out of the north, and just flooding that place. And I don't think I've ever seen it like that before. They were literally, we scouted, I think we pulled up in there around 1:30, and from 1:30 to dark, there was never not birds in the air. Jeez. It's just like I said before, one of those things that you don't see every day, just mass migrations of birds.
So do you think North Dakota, that'd be a good state for a beginner in DIY to kind of go get their feet wet a little bit, kind of experience an actual DIY and an out west trip before they make their way down to an Arkansas or Missouri type deal?
Well, the great thing I think about North Dakota, I think we were talking about it earlier, was you don't have to have a boat duck hunt, but it helps.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Especially on Devil's Lake. Want to go kill some ducks.
But a place like North Dakota, we didn't take a boat. Most people I know don't take boats in the place like that. So if you're limited on that, that makes it easier. I think what makes us, and I'm not saying we're successful by any means, because like I said, we lose more than we win. But and me and Levi we're talking about this yesterday. A group of guys that are like-minded and that can get it done, and everybody kind of brings something different. Like I said, me, my brother-in-law, we got a goofy clown that piled in there with us, and Jed is just like, I still remember one of the first times we went duck hunting together. Like, I didn't really know him, but he made me laugh the entire time. Like, I laughed literally the entire time. And I think last year when we were in North Dakota, he was like, "Man, I really wish I could help you call." And I was telling Levi yesterday, I was like, "Bro, you're good. Like, we got enough callers." But he's a worker, man. Like, he's up when I'm up. He's getting stuff ready. He's pulling decoy sleds. He's, just somebody that wants to go and is willing.
They're the funnest people to be out there with, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and another guy we went out with last year, Taylor Powell, had never met him till the day we pulled out of the driveway. And my brother was like, "Oh, man, he's a good duck hunter." And like I said before, even with my brother-in-law, I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'm skeptical." And Taylor pulls up right before we leave, and we start talking. I'm like, "We're going to like this dude." And we just hit it off, man. We kind of formed that group where everybody's got a little something different. Everybody looks at the situation different. But it's what makes you successful. And Levi and I were talking about this yesterday, especially, I'll say people from South Carolina don't have lots of opportunity. And Levi, you should know this by now, but hunting big ducks like mallards, gadwall, things like that.
Yeah.
You can blow a duck call and not know how to call a duck.
Right.
I know a lot of people that can blow a duck call really well that don't know how to call birds. And there's a learning curve even on that, learning how to read a bird and how to work a bird. That's probably one of the, if, somebody's going for the first time by themselves, a guide, if you go hunt with a guide, he's hunting 60 days, 80 days, 120 days sometimes. Most of those boys know how to work a bird. But for a guy that, especially in our area, that doesn't know or doesn't get the opportunity, and that's the thing, man. If you don't get an opportunity to work birds, you're not going to know how. And that learning curve of working a bird and their reaction to maybe decoys or where somebody's sitting. If me and Levi were talking yesterday, if a group of birds comes and they're interested in us and they get 45, 50 yards and they flare or something like that, okay. If the second group does the same thing, we're changing everything.
Yeah.
Everybody's out the blinds. Everybody's moving. We're looking. Hey, are you moving? Is your face shining? Is that bag closed?
Yeah. Right.
We're looking because those birds, if you're in the place where birds want to be, they should be coming there.
Right.
So
yeah.
There's a reason. And even in that sunflower field Josh was talking about, the first few bunches of birds, I still remember, like, they were coming, but they were just outside of they would light just outside of the decoy. So we rearranged them, a little bit closer. The third time, the third group that come in, you could almost hit them. Like, we were there,
Yeah. They liked it.
And that's a really good tip for anybody, I think, is, don't wait for 3 or 4 groups of birds before you decide, oh, we need to do something different. If you have a group of birds that, one, you got to be where those birds want to be. But if you're there and those birds were there and they're coming to you, but they're just not finishing, then you need to try something different. I don't care what it is. If you hunt with mojos, cut the mojos off, move them, whatever it is, do something different till you find out. Maybe you need to call harder. Maybe you need to call less. Like Ben was saying,
hunting stale birds in Arkansas in the
Mhm.
late season, a lot of times we're doing very little calling,
Right.
jerk strings, quacks, keeping those birds interested. But all that heavy calling that you might can get away with earlier, and it's different day to day, but for the most part, we're a lot lighter on calls, especially there, and are mildly successful at it.
I would imagine, and I've never hunted that flooded timber down there in Arkansas, but what I would imagine is since it's echoing through the trees, is like, especially with stale birds, is they're not only hearing that one call. I mean, they're hearing it echo through the trees too. So like, they're having ample amount of time to be able to pick up, like what you're doing wrong, or and what the actual sound is, because I mean, they're hearing each echo as it goes through them trees.
It's
Mhm.
amazing. I don't know, Levi, if you've ever been in flooded timber like that, but
I haven't.
how loud a mallard hen quack can be for, to be 500 yards away, and they sound off through those trees, and that echo, and they sound
Bounces
like,
off.
they sound like they're 100 yards from you. It's just it's crazy I was sitting out on a levee last year and could hear the birds I was looking at them through the glass, and I mean, they were 500 yards from me. But every time they made a quack, I mean, they sounded like they were right there on top of us.
Man, that's crazy.
It's just, like I said, that's a state that's definitely a steep learning curve. If you're going by yourself with nobody that's ever done it, you're just going to have to chalk up a couple years and time is always a factor, because people work. I don't know anybody that duck hunts for a living. I'd like to, but I don't duck hunt for a living.
Yeah.
So, places like Arkansas, man, you can chalk up a couple of days unless, people get lucky, and we definitely get lucky sometimes, but, you can't just say, hey, we're going to go here and kill birds, because you probably won't.
Yeah.
You gotta chalk it up and say, hey, we're going to go out there, we're going to learn, and go back next year, we may be a little bit better, and go back next year and be a little bit better. It's like I said before, it's just one of those things, either you're going to do it or you're not.
And I mean, I was guilty of it last year too. I mean, like I was telling you last night, that my dad, he worked up in North Dakota for several years, and he always talked it up. And the year we finally go, a snowstorm hits and pushes all the birds kind of like further down south a little bit. And he's like, again, he said he'd be driving, because he was a crude oil truck driver. He said he'd be driving the truck down these gravel roads up there, and he says the ditches on both sides of the road would be full of water, and it had pintails and some redheads and all these birds when we get up there. And there was a couple of days where we were like again, like kind of like what you were saying, like we were 2 hours went in the truck driving looking for birds. I'm like, did you lie to me? Like all those years, were you lying to me? I was like, I've never seen it like this before. I'm like, well, it's just like it's just, if I didn't have bad luck, I'd have no luck at all, it seemed like. But so let's say someone did go to North Dakota or in Arkansas for the first time, and they're getting ready to come back to, like, say, South Carolina or Virginia or just back home. What are some laws that they need to be aware of before they make their trip back, or even while they're there? Because I know, like I said, telling you last night, like the transport laws.
Right.
Be able to ID a bird. What are some laws that you guys have found that's like, oh, that can get us really in trouble if the right person caught us?
Absolutely. I remember, I think, the End of the Line podcast with Ryan Warden that created the toe tags. When that series aired, I'm a big fan of listening to podcasts while we're traveling. And I remember we were traveling when we were listening to that podcast, and I would be 100% honest with you, the laws that I learned listening to that, like, we were carrying birds back then, and I was like, holy crap. Like, we were scared to, like, no joke. Like, everybody was just, he would get to a point in the story, and we would just all look at each other like, oh my God, like, what are we doing? Like, bro, we, at one point we stopped and like got duct tape and made just tried to get as legal as possible.
Right.
So I think that podcast has done a super job of kind of bringing transportation and tagging birds to the forefront. One thing, Ben, I don't know if you know this, but I was in law enforcement for 10 years. I just recently got out. Going state to state with weapons, especially when you start heading north of the Mason-Dixon line, places like that, you can get in a lot of trouble really, really quick just transporting guns. If they're not, because, we're in the South, everybody's got a gun, it's not a big deal. When you start getting up north, and I'm not so sure about northern Midwest states, but certainly the East Coast, there's some pretty stiff laws with, felony penalties for just transporting guns in the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that I can say, and I have to be like, my brother-in-law is let's go. And I'm like, bro, we don't know. He's like, no, we can go. I'm like, okay. So he puts it on me to kind of, like, I'll read up on, laws, and it's a good idea. And I still do it now, even in South Carolina. When the regulation book comes out, I'll sit down and read it.
Yeah.
Because being in law enforcement, and my brother-in-law is over there listening, and I know I've said this 1,000 times, but I had a lot of friends in DNR, but I never set out to break the law to begin with, but I also wanted to be educated. So I don't put those guys that are really good people in a situation where they need to do their job, and they feel like they can't do their job because they know me, or, we work professionally together or anything like that. So, over 10 years, I've kind of learned to research certain laws, and even places like Arkansas, you can't just go there and hunt. You need to because there's different regulations for different WMAs.
Right.
And, you're going to have I'm not going to say a target on your back at all, because I don't believe, for the most part, law enforcement targets people. But out-of-staters, you're going to be kind of checked more with a fine-tooth comb than – so, if DNR – the same way you would be here in South Carolina. I know every warden within 100 miles of here. They've checked me, a dozen times, and I'm always legal. But if they got, old boy that's from wherever, they're going to look at him a little harder, So you got to take that.
Well, they remember people that they have.
Be prepared.
They remember people they have interactions with in the past too.
That's right.
And so I was when I first got into waterfowling on my own, I had a couple run-ins with the same warden. In the first year, opening day of teal season, I had gotten a ticket for shooting 5 minutes early, and as petty as I thought that was, I understand the guy. I understood the guy was just doing his job. But the next 2 years, opening day of teal season, this warden remembered me, and he saw my truck,
right.
and he checked me the next 2 years, and so I had run-ins with the guy 3 years in a row on the same day every year. So I understand, that they remember who you are.
Oh, no doubt. Like I said, being in law enforcement for 10 years, you definitely some people, you try to be those people that, law enforcement doesn't remember. But you definitely remember some people more than others. And just like you said, something as small as shooting 5 minutes early, people just, you remember things like that sometimes. It's weird.
So, Matt, you were talking about you'd want to put the DNR in a situation where they have to do their job. Well, I think the opposite way. I don't want to take someone and then be in the wrong, and then now we're both getting ticketed, because that happened to me when I was in high school. Again, that's when I really my duck hunting. That's when I really started duck hunting heavy, was in high school, and then my dad was in North Dakota at the time, so it's just me and my mom, and every weekend I'd be going out there scouting for birds, and I finally found a pothole with just 100 mallards just diving in. I'm like, oh my goodness! I was just eyes lighting up, and we get there like as soon as daylight break. I made sure it was shooting time, and we just started laying into them. We had one limit already, working on the second one, and old Green Jeans pulls up, and the game warden there, he had a blue Ford Raptor, like no one else is going to have a truck like that. And I saw his truck pull up. I'm like, God bless. What are we doing wrong? So he drives all the way up the levee. He's like, what are you boys doing? And I was like, well, just duck hunting. He's like, you guys know you're on virgin ground, right? I'm like, what do you mean? So on the public ground, right, around the field, there's signs, but they're facing out. So if you're in the field, they're facing opposite, not facing in, if that makes sense. So it said hunting. It was pretty much like a quota hunt, a place for people to quota hunt. And so like this zone is only for this state through this state. And yeah, we got hammered. I think we both got a $220 ticket. He wasn't rude or anything, but again, like you were saying, he was just doing his job. So I think if you're going to take someone, make sure you're educated yourself. That way, he wasn't too happy with me after.
That reminds me of a story, Levi, of I don't know the guy. My brother-in-law knows him. And through another friend, and the guy said, actually, I heard the guy tell a story about a week ago. He said, man, I went down to so-and-so with this guy. He said, we get out the boat, and the guy straps a texting camera to the boat. He's like, what's that for? He's like, oh, man, just to watch the boat, make sure, everything's cool. Mm-hmm. He's like, okay. And he said they get into the hole, and they hear somebody walking towards them, and the guy looks at him. He's like, hey, man, if that's the game, we'll just split the ticket, okay? And I'm like, what? Like, no, we're not splitting anything, bro.
Yeah.
Just
it's your boat. You're gonna eat it.
Oh yeah. But same thing, like that guy doesn't know, like he's not a big duck hunter. He's like, bro, I was just going, like,
yeah,
I don't know. But going back to the laws in general, you have to educate yourself, no matter what state it is. Take the time if you're going to spend the money. And like Levi and I were talking last night, people think that freelance hunt may be cheaper. The startup of freelance hunting and having different supplies to hunt different terrain and things like that is not. If you're going to spend all that money to go, you need to be legal. Just do everything in your power to be legal. And even in like North Dakota, what we've come up with, if you're there for 7 to 10 days and you're on birds, you're going to have to do something with those birds.
Yeah.
So what we come up with is taking a grinder, like an electric smoker that you can just plug into a 110 outlet, grind those birds up, carry your seasoning, bacon, whatever you want to do to grind those birds up with, grind it up and make it into jerky or snack sticks while you're there,
Yeah, that's smart.
That's a good way to get around, because once, the way I understand it now, and I could be wrong, but once the birds have been processed in the food, it no longer counts against your limit, your possession limit.
That makes sense.
So that, and like I said, I may be wrong, but that's the way I understand it to be.
Right.
And,
yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, even as an officer, if somebody's trying to do the right things and make strides to be legal, normally law enforcement officers aren't gonna be too hard on people. So
yeah, it's funny you say that, because that game warden is like, you guys are either really bad criminals or you really don't know. I'm like, yeah, I had no idea.
Hey, Matt, but I think we got 2 more questions here. I think we want to run past you real quick. We don't have a whole lot more time here. We don't want this thing going crazy long. No matter how much we love talking to you, man. But so one question is, so about the kind of conversation about shutting down, duck season, for a year, maybe 2 years, just to kind of build up waterfowl numbers on the East Coast. I don't think that's been a talk necessarily like as a whole, but I know I've heard it between hunters. What's your take on that? I mean, so my opinion is, if they don't do something about the habitat and improve the habitat on the East Coast, doing something like this isn't going to matter. But what's your opinion on it, man?
I think that's crazy. That's no doubt. And like you said, habitats,
a big thing. And I don't, if all three of us were talking earlier, but, you know, there's birds on the East Coast. There's birds in South Carolina. It's birds on public water that is, you know, the major problem, because I could take you to 10 plantations that are holding, you know, 5,000 to 15,000 birds apiece. So it's not that there are birds here, but our laws are, even in places like Arkansas now, they're restricting even more on public water. You know, you could go back and start scouting, but now once 11 or 12 o'clock hits, you can't go back on the water to let those birds rest. And when you've got a state that's the habitat on public water isn't that great to begin with, and those birds are hammered daylight to dark, and you've got people running them up, chasing them, and shooting them all the time. Of course, they're going to places where they're going to go sit in an impoundment that gets hunted once every week or once every 2 weeks, you know, and they're not going to leave. I think I hate the idea of having more government restriction.
Yeah.
And I very, very rarely do I say that's the case, but, you know, one, like I told Levi, this is the Atlantic Flyway. It's not the Mississippi Flyway. It's not the Central Flyway. It's not the Pacific Flyway. Right. The number of birds, you know, comparatively that we get is, you know, it's apples to oranges. But what we're doing with the birds that we have is, you know, rest is, in my mind, food and rest is what a duck's looking for. They're lazy. Mm-hmm. And if there's not that much food on public ground and they're not getting any rest, because like I said, guys go out, and I understand people run birds. I don't understand there's ducks over there, let's go chase them up and run them off and see what kind of ducks they are.
100%.
That's asinine to me. Buy a pair of binoculars, you know, sit 300-400 yards from these birds, mm-hmm. glass them, see where they're going, where they want to be, and then go back there. You know, running birds up that's nuts.
Another thing too is, like, my dad said he used to just sit in the layout blind when he'd go duck hunt by himself in North Dakota and just listen and just watch how they. I just watch them. You know, right. That's the best way you can really learn. I mean, YouTube is a great teaching tool, but you can't beat just sitting there listening to live birds acting how they just day to day in the wild.
That's the best way to learn, man.
Yeah, yep. And I didn't think like that when I was, 18 years old. All I wanted to just kill, right? But I mean, after you said that, it really clicked. So,
that's a point that me and my brother-in-law have talked about a lot in calling birds. A few years back, my brother was like, he said, "Hey, there's a hole here." He was working. He's like, "There's a hole here. Go check this hole." And I went, and there was probably, and for South Carolina, I mean, this is a lot of ducks. There was probably 50 to 75 mallard ducks. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow. So I went back the next morning. That was on a Saturday. I went back that next morning and just kind of, I slipped in before daylight and waited for them. And, man, they started pouring in. But some of those birds, groups of 5 or 6 were coming at the time, and those birds would circle like 30 times. Like there were birds on the water swimming around, feet chuckling, quacking, just pant, 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 pant. And there's 5 or 6 ducks in the air or 10 ducks in there, and they would circle and circle and circle and circle. And that taught me something, even when we're hunting, sometimes you call it a bird and and they circle and circle and circle and leave. And you're like, man, what did we do wrong? What did we do wrong? Right. Well, maybe you didn't do anything wrong. That taught me a really valuable lesson that day, because I was back up in the trees and I was just letting these ducks be ducks and just watching them. And, several different little flights of mallards would come in and circle those birds that were down there just having a good time eating smartweed. And they would circle and circle and circle. And after, 15, 20, 30 times, they would pitch in right there with them.
Yeah.
So, watching, nothing beats learning and watching from wild live birds for sure.
And another thing too is like, I know that's how I learned a lot about just like calling too. I know in high school, everyone, especially in high school, and just people they don't know a whole lot about it. They just like to get on that that feeder call and just go as fast as they can.
Oh yeah.
And then they'll have like
they'll have
and they'll have a dozen decoys out. I'm like, what are you doing? Like a single duck would go like dug it like at the most, and then you got to kind of. It'd be different if you have 5 dozen decoys out and you're sitting in Trump Tower duck blind. You know what I mean? But it's different if you're hunting. If you have a dozen or a dozen and a half decoys,
well,
then, I mean, they just
back to what we were talking about before, Eli, about seeing like having to have a trailer to go hunt out west.
Yeah,
like people see that's just they're imitating what they see on TV.
Yep, exactly.
They don't know any better, so they're just imitating what they see because these guys are killing ducks.
Right.
Like,
yep.
Yeah, they are killing ducks, but 9 times out of 10, they're at an outfitter and they've been there for 3 or 4 days, and you're going to watch about 8 minutes of hunting, actual duck shooting in, I don't know, a 30-minute TV show.
Right.
8 minutes or less.
Yeah, and they're going to make it seem like it all happened in 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got a big question that I've been wondering ever since I got here. I've seen, I'm on a lot of the same pages you are, like South Carolina Duck Hunters or Carolina Syndicate, and I've seen the same question be brought up and the same people complaining over and over again. It's just the lack of support we have from whether it's public officials or the congressmen we have that, actual duck hunters are going to these meetings about habitat and wildlife habitat or waterfowl habitat, whatever. And it's like when the voices aren't being heard, but they're there. So what do you think is a problem? And then what do you think needs to change to see change?
From what I understand, and I know I am not a political person whatsoever.
Right.
But as with anything, there's money involved, there's politics involved.
Right.
And I think you guys have already said you're going to be talking to David Strickland.
We are, yeah. We got him lined up.
I'm kind of echoing what he will say because I've learned it from him, but the problem goes pretty much all the way to the top.
Yeah.
I remember my dad talking about hunting in the 80s, the 70s and 80s down on the coast area. And, he described it as hunting the Georgetown area, just clouds of birds. And for whatever reason, through mismanagement of these places, the bird numbers have dwindled. But it's like I said, at the same time, the public ground has been mismanaged, but you've got more and more people every year that are planting food for birds. And they're not only planting that food, but they're managing those birds well, where they're not pressuring them. Those birds they're staying there. They, even if they've got 50 acres, they're shooting 50 acres one time a week, and they're holding those birds. And, if you've got that much skin to put in the game and you can build an impoundment, more power to you. But obviously it creates a problem for public duck hunters. But I think Mr. David's idea of Carolina Wildlife Syndicate, that's what they're there for. And from what I understand, he stays on their ass, all the time about habitat mismanagement. That page does a really good job of keeping track of that the best they can.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't have a problem just saying, hey, I don't know.
That's fine too. I always expect you to pull some shit out of your ass.
No, habitat is obviously the big issue. But like I said, we need habitat, we need rest, but it's still the Atlantic Flyway, and I don't know how you can compete with some of the nicer plantations in Georgetown or some of the nicer plantations in the Ace Basin. I don't know, and maybe everything revolves around money,
Absolutely.
It's all about a dollar in the end, and
Gotta follow the money.
It's follow the money. And so in the end, who's to blame? Well, somebody with a lot of money in their pockets, probably.
Yeah.
More than all of us.
So talk about money. I mean, we all know duck hunting can get expensive, but my father-in-law, he'd been researching some hunting down there, and he found a spot. They advertise themselves as a guided hunting spot down there in South Carolina. I can't remember the exact area, but where you go and you pay them to take you on a guided hunt, and they release mallards. They don't release wild mallards. They just release these farm-raised mallards. And you got to pay per bird that you shoot. To me, that sounds like a scam. It sounds like somebody taking advantage of a state that's not as top of the line duck hunting. I guess I don't want to necessarily go as far as say you can't find ducks, but I just want to see what your opinion on it is on that. What I'm sure you might know the place I'm talking about, but.
I think the other day, Levi, I think you were on there. A guy, I want to say it was South Carolina Duck Hunters maybe, but he asked a place where he could go to take his kid to kill mallards.
Yes, I saw that. And I saw you commented on it too. I mean that's awesome, man. I was meant to say that.
Well, so here's my thing, and I mean this with every part of my heart. Like I was telling my brother-in-law later. Like, it may have been today or yesterday. I was like, bro, I said, honest to God, I said, when he asked me that, I said, it never crossed my mind at any point. Never did it cross my mind that he was asking for a place to hunt to shoot released birds. I was like, that was never even a thought.
I didn't think so either.
No, I was like, that's why I was like, bro, I definitely can't promise you a mallard duck. We have mallard ducks. We kill mallard ducks, but it's here today, gone tomorrow. You got to be there when they're there, And it's yet again follow the money. Those places are still in place in South Carolina because they're big business. There's
pay off certain people.
Yeah, I mean they can take politicians and whoever else, and they can drive them up to a blind and drop them off, and they can shoot a bunch of released birds. And I've seen it to the point where, a guy's got to drive around on a golf cart and jump these birds up to make them fly.
On a golf cart?
The problem with that, and if you get on any page, it's like a broken record because, it's just all the time. But there's been numerous studies, and this has been an argument as long as I've known of the internet or been on the internet.
Yeah.
These release ponds or whatever, and the negative effects it has on the black duck population, the mottled duck population.
Right.
I just saw a study recently where now I forgot exactly which university it was, but they done DNA testing on, a certain number of mallard ducks in the Atlantic Flyway, and over 50%, I believe it was, of those birds had domestic raised DNA.
Wow.
And 25% of black ducks that they tested had domestic DNA because they're they're creating these hybrids that everybody gets crazy about killing hybrids. But I think we were talking about in conjunction with that study of 25% of the black duck population having that DNA. I think roughly or right at a quarter of all the black ducks we killed this year were, easily identifiable as being hybrids.
Really?
So, it's not sporting. It's not, and what another man does with his money is his business at the end of the day. But, if you ask me my opinion, I'm definitely going to tell you,
Yeah,
don't
sure.
don't talk to me and say you went duck hunting because you didn't. Like I said, hey, I'm not gonna argue with you about it. I'm not gonna fight with you about it because it's your money and that's fine. But it kind of degrades the history and the respect of duck hunting to me. And some people, whatever, and it's you get the argument all the time. It's for the kids, blah blah blah. Hey,
still doesn't make it right.
At the end of the day, look at just regular guys like us that were never exposed to that, but we're still out chasing birds, 10,000 miles a year or 20,000 miles a year. You can instill a love of hunting and passion without that. Because it's, to me, what it reminds me of is that participation trophy.
100%.
It's like that. Hey, you were here, good job. And that's not life. I was very fortunate my mom and dad didn't have a problem telling me no. It was, hey, you don't always win, son. You got to do better next time.
Right, yeah.
And that's what that whole deal, and just my personal feelings on it without getting into the biology of mallards and black ducks.
Right.
But it's kind of ridiculous to me. And it doesn't show any signs of slowing down,
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, as long as there's a dollar to be made, they're going to keep going.
So do you know any other state that does release duck hunts like that, or is it really just in South Carolina?
Oh, no. I mean, certainly the Atlantic Flyway, I have seen places advertised in, I know, North Carolina, Virginia, and Maryland. And,
wow.
There was back in the early 1900s, they were releasing birds then too. And I want to say the state was, and I could be wrong because I read so much and my memory is just not that great. I want to say it was New Jersey and Delaware maybe, but they were releasing birds back then for.
I didn't realize it went that far back. But I'm also, the first time I heard about it was when I got here. And I saw was tamey ducks, like South Carolina duck hunters. I'm like, what the hell are people talking about? Tame ducks. And then I was talking to Andy about it. I'm like, look, man, I was like, I'm green to all of this. What the hell is this? And he's like, explain it to me. I'm like, why? Like, why would that be fun? You know what I mean?
And I don't understand it. I can't make it sound okay. Like, there's no part of it where it's like, oh, it's like going to Arkansas. I'm like, it's not, like, in any way. Like, I just can't make sense of it. I just can't make sense of it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't see any signs of it slowing down because of the money that this stands to be made there. And you've got, what is the South Carolina Waterfowl Association over in Remini next to CNT that, it's big business. And they do a lot of stuff for kids or whatever, but it's just not my thing, man. I don't agree with it.
So I've looked at, I was actually on their page for the first time yesterday. And I was reading, there's really not a whole lot on there. And I went to Habitat and I was reading what they had under Habitat and they were throwing out all these big numbers, but it all just seemed like fluff to me and just giving you like the runaround, you know what I mean? And if anyone listening, I challenge you, go look at California's Waterfowl Association page. There are links. It's cited for their research. They have letters of support. They have all this stuff. Now, once you take a look at your own home state's Waterfowl Association page and kind of compare the two, because I know California gets a lot of shit for a lot of different reasons, but they actually have their shit together when it comes to habitat and working with the farmers. I know incentive-based. I can't think of the R. But they have a lot of incentive-based rules over there that actually work. The state and the farmers work together, and they actually I'm actually really impressed with California and what they're doing over there for waterfowl conservation in general. So I challenge y'all, whoever's listening, to take a look at your home state and kind of compare it to California's, and feel free to message me, Ben, or even whatever, and just kind of compare. But
hey man, I got one more question for you.
Yeah, brother.
So, and this is kind of from a perspective of, I think a lot of waterfowl hunters will come from here, come from this point of view a little bit, because a lot of the people that I run into, a lot of people that I've experienced, have never had to deal with this aspect of waterfowl hunting. But what's it like hunting around gators, man? Because that, especially with dogs, like that. That just seems like a different world to me. Seems like you have to have a little bit more of a thought process for I mean, especially with dogs. But and I understand, as it gets colder, they aren't as active. But man, I don't know. I feel like it'd be
Right. Well,
a little bit.
If I'm correct, somewhere around the mid 60s. Like I said, I am not a biologist by any means, but from what I understand, mid 60s, alligators' ability to digest food kind of, levels off, and they're not able to digest food as easily. I have seen up until if you're hunting the coast down Georgetown, the Ace Basin, there's going to be gators. There's going to be gators there. I've never had any real problems. We were hunting a place last year, and it was when I say it was a creek that just fed into a tidal mud flat that filled up with probably 4 inches of water at high tide. And probably about a 6-foot gator just slides right into this creek. And he's like, we have to step across this creek. And he just slides in the creek and sits. And we had to, a couple of different times, to make trips to get everything to where, set up. We had to go back to the boat. We had to keep crossing that creek, that little stream there. And we were taking boat paddles and just smacking, just trying to get, because I don't care what their ability to digest food cuts off at. I don't want to step on them.
Yeah.
He was not he was bigger than I was. I'm not a tall guy. And so what we, especially with my brother-in-law's dog, if it's iffy, if we even think there's a possibility, we're not carrying it. I don't know of any. I can't tell you of one time I've heard of a gator attacking a duck hunter, but they like dogs. They like dog meat, and there's just this not worth chancing. And if you go on the draw hunts, even on the DNR site, they'll tell you, there's certain places that you go, like, hey, bring a dog at your own risk, because there's going to be gators here.
I mean, I know, I was hunting early teal season on a little creek down by me, and it was just, we got out of the boat ramp, and we're starting to go to our spot, and I'd flip on the light bar, and it'd just be set of eyes, set of eyes, set of eyes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
you
not
could walk across their back, across the water.
Yeah, exactly. We're throwing decoys out from the boat.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
But,
early teal season, I would not even dream of putting a dog in the water down there. Because we've seen some absolutely massive gators, going down in those areas fishing in the summertime, and there's no way I'd put a dog in the water.
No,
it's not worth it. If you don't have ability to get your ducks, you probably shouldn't be hunting, because putting a dog in the water down there is that's crazy.
Or just getting in the water yourself.
Yeah, like I said, there's an area that we hunt up next to the house that has a large population of gators, and we tend to stay in the boat. But I was out of the boat about 2 years ago, and I don't know if it was or not, but it felt like probably, you remember the gator or crocodile off of Lake Placid?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't even know if this is what that was, but that's what it felt like went through my legs as soon as my feet hit the bottom. And I was like, I could not get back in the water, up in that boat fast enough.
Did you bring a second pair of underwear with you?
Oh no, didn't need them, but my brother was like crying. He was hysterically laughing. And he's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "Bro, I don't know what that was, but it was way bigger than I was."
And I'm not sticking around to find out.
No.
But Matt, I really appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate Josh too. His time. He said he texted me about 30 minutes ago or so. He said that his phone died. He was having problems with his phone. So, like I said, no love lost there. He'll be back on in about 2 weeks with Colby Sarvis. So we're not whatever he wants to say. I'm sure he'll bring regurgitate it then. So I really appreciate your time. I know you missed putting your son to bed again, but I appreciate your time. I shed a lot light on a lot of stuff, and I definitely learned something from it. I'm sure you did too, Ben.
100%, man.
And we'll definitely have to have you back on at some point in time, maybe after season. Let us know once you get your YouTube channel up and running. Let us know how many thousands of birds you killed and how you're the South Carolina legends, man. I heard that.
Right? Yeah, he hooked me up with that. I told Levi he's been the South Carolina legends has caused me so much grief. Like, it's not even funny. But hey, in just a couple of days, we'll be we're going to be starting our YouTube channel, and our Instagram will be up, and also we're going to open up a Facebook page. And what it's going to be for is public hunters, for two reasons. One, like we were saying before, that respect aspect, networking with people, getting to know people. It's not going to be a page for, hey, take me here and hunt, or where do I need to go to hunt? Like, I'm never going to support that as a public hunter. Like, put your own work in, do your own work, do your own research, but come here. I can teach you a lot. Other guys can teach you a lot without telling you where to go.
Yeah, and for sure.
That's what we want this Facebook page to be based around. If we could grow it to the fact where it's in all lower 49 or 50 states, and you've got guys, that are in all these different states. I don't know about you guys, but I like seeing dead ducks. Like, I don't care if you kill them. I don't care if I kill them. I like seeing those pictures, man. Post your birds up. I don't need to know where you killed them. I'm not going to ask you where you killed them. Post them up. Let's see them, man. If you got some tips and stuff, our YouTube channel will be linked into that page, hopefully pretty soon. But be looking for a invite to that page in probably the next couple of days. We're going to go ahead. It's already created. We got some stuff going on, and get up and be active in that page. And so we can educate, like Josh was saying earlier, though, there is a generation of younger hunters that have been kind of thrown to the wolves.
Right.
And, I told Levi this last night, I've been guilty of being that guy at the ramp that acted like, I was too good to talk to these kids, or I was too good to sit and ask these guys, hey, how'd y'all do, or something. Like, you're the big guy on campus. Like, that's asinine, man. Like, I have no use to be that way, and I think Levi and I were talking, even on public ground in other states. Like, I'm sitting at a boat ramp holding on to somebody else's boat at 4:00 in the morning and not even going to speak to him. Like, that doesn't make sense. So we just want to promote positive encounters with other duck hunters outdoors, man. Like, I don't want to hunt your hole. I don't want to know where you killed your ducks, man, but let's talk duck hunting, because as you can see, I'll talk all night, brother.
100%, man. It's all about the community, man. That's what's so great to me about waterfowl hunting is if nobody else did it, man. Like, I don't want to say that I wouldn't duck hunt if nobody else did it, but I sure as hell enjoy talking about it. And sure as hell enjoy.
I'm going to do it. Like, if I'm the last guy left on earth, and I got a Brown shotgun, like, I'm going to hunt ducks. But I do love. It's me and my brother-in-law work together, and we talk ducks. Like, we're talking ducks constantly. Never get tired of it. But man, I'm gonna let you guys run. Like I said, be looking for an invite to the page, and hopefully you guys will be active and
when you get it up, we'll definitely share it on our page and have some people over to you and share your YouTube link and all that. So we definitely got you.
like Levi, I love the South Carolina Duck Hunters page, but I don't support the idea of let's go online and tell other people where we're going or where we went duck hunting at. Like you can share images with people and you can post pictures and be proud of without, everybody having to know where you went. And that's what we want. I like seeing your ducks, man. I enjoy it.
Well, and one more thing to note with that, man, is mentioning, those pages. Is one thing that happens on the Virginia Duck Hunters page is people will kill a ton of ducks. They'll post a limited ducks, and rather than posting where they killed them, which nobody's asking for them to do that, they'll post and say that they did it on the public land around the area, knowing damn well that's going to get people to flood to that public land that they did it on. So that's something that I think is just as ethically wrong as posting on there exactly where you shot the bird as well.
Well, me and my brother-in-law were talking about it yesterday. Even if it's places like it's really well-known places, like I understand, this may be really well-known to so many people, but there's still people out there that don't know that spot. And even if there's not birds, like a lot of birds there, sometimes you'll get people say, "Oh, we went such and such and hunted," when they didn't.
Right.
But maybe there's two groups of birds there that some other guy's been hunting, and now he's got 5 other boats because they read on the internet that there were birds here, and dang well they didn't kill them there, but these guys don't know any better, so they're hitching up their boats and they're pulling it down there. So now you've just caused that much more confusion for this guy who's just trying to shoot a few birds. So
I think a good thing to know whenever duck season does come around is just a quote my mother told me a long time ago, and every day it resonates with me more and more, is just believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. So even if someone is on there saying, "Oh, I killed this in Chickahominy," or "We killed this here on Foster's Creek," or whatever, just take it with a grain of salt. Don't just automatically assume that's where it was killed. I mean, like y'all were saying, they could be on private ground somewhere and they just posted a picture, just a tailgate full of ducks.
Well,
you know what I mean? So,
like we were saying earlier, everybody gets that question of where to go or where did you kill those at. And I hate a lot. Like, I don't want to lie to anybody. And when I was a lot younger, if somebody asked me where I kill birds, I would tell them 40 miles in the opposite direction. And I was talking to an older guy one time, and he was like, and I told him, I was like, inside of me, like I had an internal conflict lying about it because I felt wrong. Yeah. And he said, "Matt, you don't have to lie." He said, "All you got to say is I'd rather not say." He said, "It's polite." Yeah. He said, and you can just say, I'd rather not say, I worked, however hard to kill these birds. And
there's nothing wrong with that either.
I don't want to keep going with this, but you guys hit taking people on public spots. And then if you take a guy, 9 times out of 10, unless he's got really good morals, if you take a guy to a public spot and you kill birds, he's going back.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
fortunately
every now and then you'll find the guy that's, he's that honorable. He's going to say, "You know what? Hey, I'm not, this guy took me here and I appreciate it." It's like I said before, it goes back to that respect.
Right. And at least if you don't have a boat, but your buddy does, say, "Hey man, I don't have can I take this guy?" And if he says no, then that's fine too. If he says yes, well, I mean, it's completely up to the guy that took you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt. Like,
at least have that, that respect of asking. You know what I mean? Instead of just plopping up.
Even in Arkansas, I've had guys, take me places in Arkansas on public land, and just say, "Hey, Matt, if you don't mind," I'm like, "Brother, you don't even have to say that to me because I feel you 110%. I'm not. I really appreciate what you're doing, and I'm glad we're enjoying this together." Right. But you'll have those guys now with technology, like it's so crazy because somebody can drop a pin. You can think they're over there on Facebook or something. They can pull up a phone and drop a pin, and they've got it forever now.
Yeah,
right. It's sad that's what we live in. But duck hunting's competitive, man, and some people will do anything to kill a bird, no matter what it is. But I don't want to be remembered that way.
Right.
You want to do it right, or most of the guys I know want to do it the right way anyway.
Yeah, I mean, just educating people what the right way is, man. That's the biggest thing that I think that I would love to get out to people if we ever got to a platform where we to be able to reach, a large amount of people, teaching people the right way to do it so that everyone's able to enjoy such a great sport that we got, man. And because I just, there's nothing worse than having somebody who doesn't know the right way, whether they're, like Levi has said, whether they're ignorant or whether they're just an asshole. There's nothing worse than having someone who doesn't know it the right way coming up and setting up.
Oh, no doubt.
But this has been an absolute awesome podcast. I've been looking forward to doing this with y'all. I'm glad it happened. I learned a lot, and I really appreciate your time, Matt. Again, we'll definitely have to have you on, guys. Keep an eye on the Facebook page for their YouTube and Facebook page. And I can't wait for next week with Mr. Joey D'Amico, the Tecton with Tecton Game Calls.
Good deal. Guys, thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, man.
Again, have a good one, Levi. Take it easy, brother.
You too,
Yes,
man.
sir. You too.
Yeah, man. See you.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to the Round the Blind podcast with Ben and Levi. I know this was a long one, but man, that was a fun conversation.
That was a lot of good information.
Townsend, man. I hope you guys took something out of it. Even if you had to listen to this podcast in bits and pieces, I really hope you made it all the way through because there was tons of information to take away from that.
Lots of good information.
So
this is definitely one to even listen to it now and then before. Hell, if you are doing a DIY trip this fall or next fall, this is a good one. It's a long way to North Dakota. It's a long way to Arkansas. You got lots of time, so just click it, listen to what Mr. Matt said, and really just take it to heart because I was guilty of. He said be realistic in your be realistic on how successful you're going to be with amount of birds you're going to amount of birds you're going to kill, and that's 100% true because I went up there expecting to be covered up in birds, limited out in 30-40 minutes, and it wasn't like that at all because Mother Nature she decided to have a huge snowstorm in October, and I still had a ball and we still killed lots of birds, but it wasn't up to my expectations of what my father told me how it was every October, you know what I mean? So that's if you take anything away from this podcast, please, that would be one of the main reasons or one of the main points I would say for you to take into this next season.
Yeah, we will definitely be having Matt and Josh back on, man. They have tons of resources, tons of information to provide for you guys. So I want to say again, thank you for listening to the Round the Blind podcast. We will be back next week with Mr. D'Amico. So we'll be able to provide some great insight on call making and all that stuff. So
and all 2 of 20 people that are probably still listening right now, we're going to have the owners of Combat Waterfowl. They're going to be doing their interview next Friday and releasing it on Monday and Tuesday for you guys. I'm really looking forward to that too because we're going to talk about creating a business in the actual, not just waterfowl industry, but the hunting industry. I think I didn't even want to be like a major, how kids, I want to be a major leaguer when I grow up. Yeah. I wanted to hunt for a living. You know what I mean? I wanted to go out with my dad and kill deer and turkeys and ducks and just go kill stuff for a living. So if you're one of the people that would like to get into the hunting industry, whether it's apparel or guiding or even filming, I think that's going to be a lot of great insight on that episode. And for all you veterans or active duty veterans out there, they're both have a lot of experience in the fallen outdoors. If you guys don't know what that is, it's nonprofit organization where it just takes strictly military members out in the woods, whether it's hunting, fishing, hiking, shooting. I've seen where they're shooting 1,000 yards ranges. So it's very good for veterans.
Just a great platform for all of us to connect, man. Both myself and Levi are members of the Fallen Outdoors.
I'm pretty sure that's how we met on the East Coast page. You're looking for people to hunt, and then I was like, I ain't got a boat. Let's go.
Yep, 100%.
So,
but yeah, I appreciate 100% everyone listening.
absolutely.
We had way better turnout last week than we ever expected. We've had way more growth on our Facebook page than we've ever expected. So you guys have been awesome. We're really appreciative.
Absolutely.
We would love for you guys to provide input. Tell us what you want to hear. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Tell us what we can do better. You're not going to offend us. I mean, throw it up there on the comment on our page, man. For everyone to see. You're not going to upset us. So
right.
100%. We appreciate you guys. But this has been the Round the Blind podcast with Ben and Levi. We will see. Go ahead, man. What's up?
One more thing. We're doing a giveaway. We're doing from Tecton Game Calls. I'm sure we'll talk about it more next week with Mr. D'Amico. We're doing a giveaway. We'll give away one of his calls. So once we reach 500 likes on the Facebook page, we're gonna do like an entry. If whoever wants to be entered in, we're gonna make a Facebook post. If you want to be entered in, comment, and then we're gonna be giving away a call. So please invite your friends, invite your not so friendly friends, whoever you know likes duck hunting, or even just thinking about getting into duck hunting. Invite
Anybody
them.
who wants a call.
Anyone wants to call, right? You can invite your mom and have her enter for you. Whatever, man. Play the system. But yeah, like Ben said, we appreciate everyone. And I mean, our the YouTube video is almost at 80 views for the first one, and that blows my mind. I did not think that YouTube would be the one we have the most downloads on. But yeah, I know we went long, and I can't say you weren't warned in the beginning of the podcast, but yeah, if you're still listening, like Ben said last week, we really appreciate you, and we have a lot of good stuff coming down the pipeline. So please stay tuned, and tell your friends, man, because we're not slowing down anytime soon.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys.